I'm Jay Marshall with your top stories on Sports 1140 KHTK. The New England Patriots beat the Los Angeles Rams in Super Bowl 53 with the lowest scoring game in Super Bowl history, 13-3. Julian Edelman was named MVP, while Tom Brady and Bill Belichick won their record 6th Super Bowl with the New England Patriots. The Sacramento Kings are back home tonight to take on the San Antonio Spurs. Tip-off is at 7 with coverage beginning at 5:30 with game night right here on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
Wait, what?
Everybody, listen up.
Welcome to The Drive.
Morning, morning, morning.
You're gonna talk.
Get on the phone at 339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The Drive starts now.
We'll have some Coors Light Cold Hard Facts. I'll take that mantle from Kyle today, coming up in about 30 minutes. You know, the best part of the Super Bowl to me, probably the most memorable, was that football commercial where they had all the greats at the dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
That was so awesome. I had to go back and watch it a few times online to see all the stuff I missed.
Oh, there's so many players I missed that first time around.
It was excellent. The one commercial, what was the Bud Light commercial where it turned into Game of Thrones?
Yes.
That was great.
I got to go with the Harrison Ford commercial. I stand hard when I see like veteran actors in their 60s and 70s still going strong like Harrison Ford. I was just so happy to see him like, yeah, Harrison Ford still has this. Harrison Ford can do this.
Harrison Ford is one of the coolest ever.
Makes me so happy.
What doesn't make me happy is when you bring stuff like that up because this is kind of a bit of mine. I'll tell you why. It's something that one of the things I stay up late at night and think about. Harrison Ford is 76.
Yeah. Han's not going to be around a whole lot longer.
No,
I hate to put it that way.
You know who all is over 70 or 80? Patrick Stewart, Sir Ian McKellen. Sean Connery is like almost 90. Clint Eastwood, I think, is 88.
We just lost Burt Reynolds.
Just lost Florida State's Burt Reynolds. Yeah. There are a lot. Robert De Niro, Bob, as I like to call him. There's a lot of...
How old's Al Pacino now?
Al Pacino's in his 70s, as is Dustin Hoffman. There's a lot of...
Barbra Streisand.
Yes.
Let's throw that one in there. Dolly Parton.
How old do you think Al Pacino is?
Al Pacino is 81.
He is 78.
That's close.
He is 78. Who was the other one you asked me about? You said Al Pacino. Robert De Niro, as we mentioned.
De Niro's late 70s.
75.
Oh.
I mean, technically, he's late. He's on the second half.
That's like mid-70s, though.
How old do you think Dustin Hoffman is?
74.
81.
Damn.
Yup.
Dustin Hoffman's 81?
81 years old.
Wow.
I'll tell you the one that really, the one I'm not going to be able to handle, a couple of them.
When do you really start to feel this way? When they hit 60?
70.
70?
70. I know my dad's listening, so let me just say 75.
Okay.
76, Dad, sorry.
Yeah, 60 is my number. Like, Michael J. Fox is creeping up on 60, and that's really bothering me because I still picture Marty McFly.
Yep.
Yeah, it hurts.
How old is James Earl Jones?
James Earl Jones is 119.
He's 88.
If you round up, though, it's 119.
Sean Connery is also 88. I like to think they're all like Tom Brady. They just keep going.
How old's Mel Brooks now?
Oh, God, Mel Brooks has got to be pushing.
Well in his 90s. He's got to be pushing.
92.
Ooh.
92. Patrick Stewart, 78.
Christopher Lloyd. That's kind of a name that people wouldn't think of.
Christopher Lloyd.
But when they were
this is so depressing.
When they were toting Christopher Lloyd around for the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future, it did not look good.
He is 80 years old.
Okay. He's struggling.
This is the most depressing segment we've ever done. By the way, Michael J. Fox, 57.
I told you, he's creeping up on 60. That one hurts.
Close. Sacramento Kings, however, do not have an age issue.
Buddy Hield's creeping up on 30. They do have an age issue, sir.
I think he hates that so much, too, but I don't
would.
care. It's funny. Big win. Big win over the 76ers on Saturday night. Dave Yeager had some comments.
It was a good NBA basketball game. We're happy to win. I saw a lot of positive things from our team tonight. I thought Amon did a terrific job on Jimmy Butler. He made a lot of tough shots. And as our team, everybody pitched in somewhere. Yogi was ready to go when De'Aaron got hit. Buddy Hield had just a terrific game, not just shooting the basketball, getting loose balls and chasing some of those guys down. Willie Cauley-Stein had another terrific game. I'm really happy for him because that's a tough matchup, and all you can try to do is just keep working hard against a great player like that. And he did. Harry hit him for a while. I thought Marvin played well, and it's just a good team win because we shot ourselves in the foot. We felt like we gave away 7 or 8 points in the first quarter in turnovers, backdoors, on offensive rebounds. We had a nice lead. They're a good team. They came back and took the lead, and we kept our composure and pushed it back out, got back out in front, and then I thought we kept our composure down the stretch, made some free throws, contested some shots without fouling, and got rebounds, which is the key to the game. They're very good on the glass.
Coach, Marvin struggled at times during the game.
Sorry, Katie, I got to cut you off there. So that was Dave Yeager after the game. Going back to our
old man segment,
or going to the Wes Welker, to the Julian Edelman segment.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got this in. I wanted to get it in. According to Pro Football Reference, Julian Edelman's career stats are comparable to Al Toon, T.J. Hushmanzada, Jeremy Maclin, Percy Harvin, and Carl Pickens, and Lewis Lips. Now,
I was a big Hushmanzada guy for a while.
Hey, listen,
he had like 3 seasons in Cincy
did.
that were excellent.
That's not fair because we're talking about Edelman's postseason, and we're comparing regular seasons. But still, the point is made. Back to the Kings game, one of the biggest wins of the year from the 408 here. One of the biggest wins of the year. Philly's big 3 all had huge games. Embiid, 29 points, 17 boards. Butler, 29 and 7. Simmons, 22, 8 and 4. Yet the Kings still won. And that's an important point. We saw that even in their losses to the Warriors, their last one in particular, the big 3, if not big 4, had huge games. And the Kings were right there. And in this case against Philly, this is a Philly team that just went in and beat a Warriors team in Oakland that was on an 11-game win streak with DeMarcus Cousins, all at full strength. And they beat them. Now, was this perhaps a trap game for Philly? You could totally argue that. But I think the days of teams believing that Sacramento is an automatic win, they've scouted, they've seen things. Brent Brown, I guarantee you, pregame walkthrough, all that, was saying, guys, this is a game we can very easily lose. We lost to them, I believe, last year. I know De'Aaron Fox had that big last-second shot against them. I want to say it was last year or the year before.
It was last year.
They didn't. I don't think they took the Kings lightly. I think the Kings played well. Buddy Hield was insane, but we really got to kind of shout out here because we've given him a ton of crap. I say we.
Oh, count me down.
Okay, Willie Cauley-Stein has deserved a lot of the crap he's gotten this year. Saturday night was not one of those nights. Now you look at his numbers. He had 19 points and 9 boards. He was 8 and 9 from the field in 33 minutes. Those are pretty damn good. I would take that all year long from him. And when you look over at the Sixers, Joel Embiid had 29 and 17 with 4 blocks. But he was also 9 and 24. He was 9 and 24 and did the bulk of his damage, or a lot of his damage, at the free throw line. As funny as that sounds, when you just look at the numbers, you go, oh, well, Joel Embiid went off, and Willie had an okay night, but he was thoroughly outplayed. Jay, here's what I saw that really changed things for me, and Willie kind of alluded to it in the postgame. Marvin Bagley had 13 boards in 33 minutes. Harry Giles had 6 boards in 15 minutes. A lot of what Willie is finding out he can do when he's on the floor with Bagley is he's just boxing out. Like with Embiid, he boxed Embiid out and allowed Bagley to go against that second big unit in order to pull down the rebounds. Willie didn't have more than 9 rebounds on paper, but a lot of Bagley's 13 boards were because Willie Cauley-Stein cleared that lane. And that's important. And that's being a selfless teammate, and you have to prop him for that.
Right, and you saw him mention it in the postgame, and I know there was a few people online that said, oh, Willie's being lazy. No,
he's not.
It's a scheme.
No, he's not.
Boxing out is one of the most basic things you can do in a basketball game that a lot of people don't do, and it was brilliant. Box out the best rebounder on the court.
Yep.
And when you got a guy like Bagley that can just basically get in there and sky over anybody for a rebound, it was brilliant on his part. And I think a lot of credit also goes to Dave Yeager and the way they schemed against Embiid on the defensive side. I thought Willie played his best defensive game of the year. He wasn't getting caught in the pick and roll. He's staying with Embiid the whole game. They also did a great job of helping in the post when Embiid would get deep, double teaming. Brilliant job by Dave Yeager. Great game from Willie Cauley-Stein.
100% agree. 100% agree. De'Aaron Fox did not have a great shooting night. He was great from the line, 8 of 9, and he's had some struggles there, but he did have 19 and 8. And, of course, Buddy Hield, 34 points. A lot of people were questioning, after he had the 15-point first quarter, and then I think he sat until around 5.5 minutes left in the second. And I questioned it as well. You look at that and you go, just leave him in until he drops. I understand he played 35 minutes, and that was tied with De'Aaron Fox for the team high. Here's my question. Is Buddy Hield not capable of playing 40 minutes in a game?
That's a great question. I was wondering the same thing because what time in the fourth quarter did he come back in? Around 5 minutes. And I think if you heard on the broadcast, Grant with probably about 9 minutes left in the fourth was like, got to see Buddy Hield back soon.
Yeah,
got to see Buddy Hield back soon.
Right.
Got to see Buddy Hield back soon. I don't know if he can go 40 minutes. I'd like to see.
I mean, Buddy.
At their pace, though, that is hard to play 40 minutes, especially because that ball was running up and down the court.
Totally agree. And I understand that LeBron James is an outlier, but when he comes back, he's 34 years old, and he comes back from a groin injury, and his first game back is overtime, and he played, I think, 42, 43 minutes. And that was a regular thing for him. And again, I understand LeBron James is a superhuman. But Buddy Hield's work ethic and Buddy Hield's cardio are legendary. You always hear about they have to boot him out of the gym. I honestly, I'd have to go back and look, and somebody smarter than me can do this. I wonder when the last time a Kings player played 40 minutes in a non-overtime game.
Ooh. It for sure didn't happen last year, the way those minutes were distributed. I can't recall anyone playing over 40 this year in a non-overtime game. You'd have to go back a while.
Yeah. Great point from the text line, by the way, brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Somebody tell Dave Fox is only in his second year, so that game winner would have had to been last year. That's a great point. Thank you.
I was going to bring it up, but I'm like, no, let's just see if that one slides.
I have 900 things floating around in my head, and sometimes things slip out my ear.
Well, I'm sure he hit a game winner while at Kentucky, playing in the state of Pennsylvania at some point.
Thank you. That's exactly what I meant. So good game. And somebody snarking on the text line, great boxing out, Willie. Embiid only had 17 boards. They're not a great interior team.
No.
Joel Embiid's going to get a lot of that's going to happen. You're going to see Embiid, Steven Adams, all those guys. That's going to happen. But you also saw your center not just have the 9 boards, but you also saw your center go 8 of 9 from the field and be very efficient.
The only miss was on that putback that Fox threw over the backboard. That's the only miss. That's the only blemish on his offense. This was probably the best he's finished at the basket in a long time because he's really struggled finishing at the basket recently.
Amazing to me that, and again, coming from a guy who's been very hard on Willie from time to time, but what we don't talk about is Bjelica and Shumpert combining for 43 minutes and 11 points on 4 of 12 shooting. And that's not like some brand new thing. Shumpert and Bjelica, now that doesn't count what Shumpert did defensively, and a lot of the time he was working on Jimmy Butler. I understand that.
And he hung with Jimmy Butler well. Jimmy Butler just went full Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter.
Yes, he did. So I don't mind criticizing players, but I think you have to be fair, and I think you have to acknowledge the good when it's there, and you also have to not be afraid. I think it's cool to hate on Willie. And again, as a guy who's done it all year, I'm preaching to myself. It's cool to hate on Willie. It's not cool to hate on Iman Shumpert. But the problem there, and here's what we need to understand. I love Iman Shumpert, and we're hoping to have him in studio here pretty soon.
He needs to bring score shirts if he does.
Yes, he does. Oh, trust me. But Iman Shumpert comes up with some awesome sayings. He's a cool dude. He comes off as a cool guy. He comes off as a great personality. His presence in the locker room, the players love him. He's won a title before. He brings that swag and that respect. But from a straight basketball standpoint, he hasn't had close to the season Willie Cauley-Stein has had.
No, and recently he's been really bad.
And it's just, I find it sometimes hilarious how we are so quick, me too, are so quick to kill Willie Cauley-Stein, and for good reason sometimes.
But you know what? He's just the scapegoat. And when your team is as bad as the Kings have been for so long, every season there's a quote-unquote scapegoat guy.
Every year, it's the it's the Ramon Sessions, John Salmon's rule.
Marcus Thornton was the scapegoat after a while.
Marcus Thornton was Josh Jackson. Justin Jackson was earlier this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of how we let our personal biases get in the way of actual numbers. Now, in defense of going after Willie, we've seen Willie straight up take some games off this year or perform. It's the inconsistency. It's never been the talent of Willie Cauley-Stein. It's been the inconsistency.
And people like to point out his flaws.
Yes.
And this was my whole argument. I'm like, you can point out his flaws all day. That's fine. Willie's a role player.
Yeah.
Role players are flawed NBA players. They do a handful of things really good, and they play a role.
Yes.
He's not a superstar. I'm sorry, Willie's not the guy. And I know he's opened his mouth and said some really dumb things that in his mind, I'm sure he believes he's that superstar guy. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I think Willie's a great role player. I think you could find a role for Willie on any of the 29 other teams in the NBA.
I think you could too. And I think you will. And I don't think he'll be here next year.
I don't either.
And I've said that from the beginning of the year. And I'll also go back to something else I brought up. When I see a performance that Willie had the other night, and then you talk about the inconsistency, I'll go. One of the reasons why I've kind of let up on him is I could be totally wrong about this, but I've kind of settled into the fact that, and I go back to his days in Kentucky and a couple weeks ago when it finally hit me that Willie suffered from a condition called sickle cell trait. Mm-hmm. And he was, and the only reason I feel comfortable talking about it enough, and I still don't really feel comfortable talking about it, is because he openly talked about it at Kentucky. And one of the things that would happen is sometimes his cardio would suffer, and he would talk about that, how I was dealing with it during this game or that game. And I don't know that this is the case, and I said the same thing a couple weeks ago, but if you plug that into now, and if you look at it, you go, well, I wonder if there's a health reason. Why else would Willie just seemingly disappear in one game and then show up in the next three and then disappear for two? I don't know that there's not a health issue associated with it. And that's kind of part of the reason I've backed off of him is maybe he just doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to use it as an excuse. He's in a contract year. But I've always felt like there's something else with Willie. And that plugs in, that fits for me in that puzzle piece. So I've kind of backed off of that. But when we look at a guy like Willie, all I'm saying is bring that same energy that you bring for Willie to Bielitsa or to Iman Shumpert or anybody else who's slumping or who has an off game. And Saturday night, Willie deserved accolades about as much, if not more, than anybody not named Buddy
It was
Hield.
his best game of the year.
Might have been.
And there is probably something to what you're saying because the one thing like brought up earlier, everyone harps on effort.
Right.
Well, if you're winded.
Yes.
And you're winded for a medical reason,
Yep.
It's going to look like to the naked eye watching the game on TV or at the Golden One Center that you're just lacking effort when really he might just not have any energy.
The Jiffy Lube text line from the 530, why won't Willie be here? Will he not accept coming off the bench? First off, that's just what I believe. Jay, you share that vision. I don't think with Bagley and Giles as the future and on rookie deals, I think they're going to make a qualifying offer to Willie, and I think he's going to get a better offer somewhere else. And I think Willie has kind of made it clear. I could be wrong, but it just seems to me, taking what he said in the past about money, I think he's the type of guy that will go to the highest bidder.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we're offering, I don't know what the qualifying offer is, but let's say it's $7 million, and somebody offers Willie 4-year, $40 million deal, which I think Willie is going to get an offer somewhere. If I had to guess, it's going to be something like 336, 4 years, 50. I think that's the range for him. I just don't think the Kings are going to match it.
Where would you, on a personal level, if you're the GM, put your GM hat on.
Yeah.
What is an offer that he could make where you're like, we're matching that because we can bring him off the bench at this number. This is a good number given our cap space.
My
that
GM
we have.
hat.
Your GM hat.
If I'm the GM of the Kings, he would not be here by the end of the trade deadline. There is no number. He literally could play for $5 next year. And I'll tell you why. I'm not trying to use hyperbole here. I'll tell you exactly why. I don't think Willie would be content or happy not starting on this team. I don't think he would be content or happy taking a bench role.
Even if he got paid. That's where his mind is at.
But that's okay. Yes, if the Kings paid him $20 million a year to come off the bench, I do think that would work for him. But then again, we're not going to pay him $20 million.
Of course, and I don't think anybody's going to pay him $20 million a season, period.
But I think that's what it would take, something like that, $15 to $20 million off to make him happy off the bench. So if we're talking realistic numbers, I don't think there's an offer that's realistic where he might come off the bench in Golden State. He might come off the bench in Boston. He might come off the bench in I don't know.
Come off the bench on any of the really big championship contenders, sure. And he starts on a team that's not very good.
But I don't think that would happen here.
But I'm looking at it from this standpoint, all right? Let me go back to something you said too. If you had your GM head on, he wouldn't be here past the deadline. What do you think is an upgrade? Marvin Bagley? At this point, are you thinking the upgrade is on their own bench?
I think Marvin Bagley and Harry Giles are the future of the front court of this team. And I would certainly kick the tires. Again, the Kings have $11 million in room right now that nobody else has. Nobody else has the room they have. They're in a very unique position over the next until Thursday. The Kings are in a very unique position for buyouts, to facilitate buyouts. And if I look at Willie Cauley-Stein, I say, okay. The problem is that the Kings are still very much in striking distance of the playoffs. So the Kings are actually in a very difficult spot. They have to decide between this team has not been in the playoffs forever.
12 seasons.
Do we want to do something to try to put us over the top, or should everything still be, do we stay disciplined? Do we ask our fans to continue to be patient? And is every move we make with the idea of it's got to help us in the future, it's got to help us next year, it can't hurt us or slow down our progression? And I truly think that's where Vlad's head is at.
Right,
and
of course.
He said it many times. So I think Marvin and Harry are the future of the front court. I don't think Willie Cauley-Stein would be starting next year anyways with those two.
And I agree.
So what I would do is I would get anything I could for Willie that was some form of an asset. I would couple him up with some expiring deals. If you want to bring Enes Kanter in for the remainder of the year, then bring Kanter in for the remainder of the year.
So you think Kanter's an upgrade over Willie? Because I disagree in the Kings offense.
I don't think that Kanter's an upgrade over Willie offensively. I think Kanter is an upgrade over Willie down low as a big body and somebody who can pull rebounds down. I do believe that. And I also think if you were to grab Kanter, I think you're going to get something else out of the Knicks. You're going to get a second-round pick. You're going to get a younger player that's not that great, but you're going to get a piece out of Scott Perry. I think another thing that they're probably very much looking at is they're looking at Orlando right now. And they're looking at
That's
Nikola
where
Vucevic,
I'm looking too,
who is a free agent this summer, but that's a guy who absolutely would be an upgrade over Willie, both offensively and rebounding.
And you could probably get Terrence Ross in the deal too. That helps you with the small forward. Although we talked to Jason Jones about a week and a half ago, and he said they're looking at Jonathan Simmons, which I don't think that helps you get in the playoffs.
I don't think it hurts you.
It doesn't hurt, but it's not going to.
It gives you a little bit of depth, and that's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really excite me. Vucevic could very well be a rental. But I've heard a lot that this front office definitely has an eye raised towards a guy like Vucevic. But again, what do you do there? Do you grab Vucevic, and then he's gonna have a big payday this summer? Well, we just talked about Bagley and Giles being the future of this front court, so they're in a very interesting position.
But if it's a deal centered around Cauley-Stein, then it's a moot point. You know what I mean?
You're
exchanging.
Exactly. You're getting something for what you think will be nothing. And it's just whether or not they want to trust Willie Cauley-Stein with a $30 or $40 million contract, and I do not think they do. We've got a break. I want to acknowledge the Kings won their 27th game Saturday night. As they take on the Spurs tonight, they have an opportunity to do something they did not do last year, which is win 28 games. They won their 27th game Saturday night with 30 entire NBA games left in the season. So quick math, 30 games left. They have 27 wins. That means they need to go 13 and what am I doing here? 14 and 16 to finish 500 this year.
Very, very possible.
They can actually play under 500 basketball this year and still finish 500 for the year, and nobody expected that.
We need to get a magic number countdown. Started at 14 really right now. Because I think, playoffs, that's the icing on the cake. If they somehow squeeze into the playoffs this year, great. If they get to 500 or a game below 500, man.
It's a big deal.
Big deal.
Coors Light Cold Hard Facts coming up next. We'll make it Super Bowl related right here on The Drive. Sports 1140 KHTK.
I'm Jay Marshall with your top stories on Sports 1140 KHTK. The New England Patriots defeated the Los Angeles Rams in Super Bowl 53, lowest scoring game in Super Bowl history with a final score of 13-3. Julian Edelman was named MVP. Hello. Tom Brady won his record 6th Super Bowl with the Patriots, as well did head coach Bill Belichick. Sacramento Kings are back home tonight to take on the San Antonio Spurs. Tip-off is at 7 with coverage beginning at 5:30 with game night right here on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Kyle Madsen is in Reno, sleeping off the Super Bowl. He'll return tomorrow. Jay Marshall doing a phenomenal job.
Hey, thanks.
Appreciate you.
I got my shirt on. I've told you this earlier.
Like
Hold on.
that.
Eunice, if you can get this on the live stream.
Look at that. That is old
The 1951 NBA championship. Got the Larry O'Brien on it.
Yep. 1951 champions.
There you go.
There's your Kings.
How many of these have you seen in your lifetime?
I haven't seen many. Especially, since they were the Rochester Royals, but I get the point.
That's okay.
That's okay.
They still rock the Larry O'Brien, the one trophy on the back of the jersey.
Can I tell you something about that?
Sure.
I don't like it.
That's fine.
I like
it's not for you.
I like the shirt. It's not the shirt I don't like.
You don't like how it fits me?
No.
It's a little snug. I get it.
I don't like I don't feel like that title should count.
Are you kidding me?
I don't. It's like a whole different thing.
No, it's not.
I mean, I get it, but
Kings are royal.
Yeah.
No, it counts.
I know.
I was happy when they put the 51 championship back up at G1C because that was down at Arco for years.
Yeah.
We need to get that Kansas City Kings Midwest title banner back up too.
I mean, I was like minus 25 when they won.
That's okay. That's okay. All we are doing is there's a rich history of this team, okay?
Can I just tell you?
That's all I'm doing.
I'd actually be more comfortable hanging a 2002 World Champions banner.
Well, I got that shirt too. It's on layaway. Hasn't come yet, but that's okay.
Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Coors Light. If you took the over last night, the over-under closed at 56 points. The Rams and Patriots combined for 16. The 40 points under the Vegas total is the most in any game. The most in any game in the last 30 years.
Wow.
It is the most under the over-under regular season, playoff, Super Bowl. Oof.
Can I ask you a question? This is my first time doing a show with you. Are these the coldest hard facts you've ever done?
They're so cold, dude. They're so amazingly cold. They're actually freezing.
They're anemic. I
have to defrost these facts to talk about them. Tom Brady was pressured on just 5 of his 36 dropbacks last night. That's a 14% clip. The lowest pressure rate for a quarterback in a Super Bowl since Drew Brees. 13% versus the Colts. That offensive line helped him so much.
Oh, well, it's helped him for, 19 seasons now?
It really has. And the Rams got absolutely embarrassed offensively. Their 3 points tied the record for fewest in a Super Bowl, along with the Dolphins in Super Bowl 6. They are the first team in Super Bowl history to punt on each of its first 8 drives. They're the second team in Super Bowl history to not score a touchdown. The third team in Super Bowl history to not run a single play in the red zone. The Patriots and Rams combined for a grand total of a play in the red zone last night.
Just one.
And you're talking about, the second and fourth best offenses, I believe, in the league? And that's why I don't know what the Dolphins were ranked offensively in Super Bowl 6, and I'm not going to look it up, but I'm just going to guess they weren't number 2 in the entire NFL. That's why it's so weird what happened last night.
Well, if you watch the 36 hours of pregame, that's all they talked about. This is going to be a shootout. Brady, Goff. High-scoring Super Bowl.
Want to take a guess as to who the favorite is to win the Super Bowl next year?
New England Patriots.
Yeah, that's a great guess, and I can tell you they are tied with 2 other teams at 8-1. The favorite to win the Super Bowl next year, the Kansas City Chiefs, at 6-1. New England is tied with the Rams and the Saints at 8-1. Pittsburgh, the Bears, and the Chargers coming in at 14-1. Tom Brady passes Charles Haley for the most Super Bowl titles by a player with 6. Belichick ties George Halas and Curly Lambeau for the most NFL championships. Right? I don't see, that's another thing I don't count either. I don't count NFL, Packer fan coming in, we have 27 champions. No, you don't.
Chargers have several AFL championships. So one of those teams do.
Who cares about
I agree.
In the end, Jay.
I'm sorry, you look so depressed after reading all of that.
I'm
You're down.
First off, I'm depressed because football is over. And I don't like, we are getting ever closer. It's February. We're going to be going to spring training here in a few weeks. I love the game of baseball, but as a sports talk show host, I hate summertime.
Oh, yeah, no, it's baseball or bust, and that's a lot of bust.
If my bosses are listening, I would take a 25% pay cut. That's a huge pay cut off my contract right now, which is up July 1st. You want to write it in? Let's do it early. Bring the papers in, and I will sign them this afternoon. I will take a 25% pay cut if you allowed me to – basically, that would amount to an unpaid vacation, which I would take from you give me 1 week after the NBA Finals end, and you let me come back the day camp opens for football. And I would happily do that. I have no interest in working late June, July, and the early part of August. It is the worst time. Now, believe me, in a few months, hopefully you will have forgotten all about this, and I'll be explaining to you how this amazing show is coming up in July 14th, and you got to listen. But let's just be honest. Going over Game 74 of baseball in late July sucks.
Yeah, not everyone's really, really excited for Mariners and A's.
No.
Or Giants and Padres.
And we want you to be. And it's great if you are. And I'm as big a baseball fan as anyone, but I'm sorry.
Baseball all year long has those lulls. You know what I mean? I feel like May's a big lull in baseball for me. June's when I really start picking up and paying attention.
Sure.
And then probably, I say in August too. It kind of, because you start to really see who are the haves and have-nots by then, and you get a lot of teams, especially in baseball these days, with division leads that are so big that you're just kind of tuned out.
March, April are fun for me because that's fantasy league, and that's where I'm really stoked on all my players, and I still have a chance, and I'm watching every game. And then September, October with the pennant races. But everything in between, you hit a home run, that's right.
Yeah, it's hard to do 3 hours of baseball talk, but hey.
It really is. That's why you have summer league. You have
thank God for NBA free
agency, which is huge. You have the NFL draft. So there are some things there. Here's my closing thought, because we're going to preview Kings Spurs in the next segment. Jay, here's what I've come to a conclusion on the best I can do when it comes to the Super Bowl. I'm a huge fan of combat sports, a big MMA guy. I'm a big boxing guy. And a lot of times you will see a championship fight between the two best fighters in the world. And there will be a lot of build-up and a lot of talk, and you'll see highlights of them just knocking the hell out of everybody else. And then they roll in against each other, and it's a 12-round decision that is fairly boring, fairly pedestrian, and you wonder how the hell, you saw it with Mayweather and Pacquiao not that long ago, and there's several other examples in both boxing and the UFC. More often in boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that happens is that they are the two best in the world. And as fighters, they cancel each other out, and it makes a lot of times for a very boring fight. They're both tremendous on defense. They're both tremendous offensively. They both have a ton of firepower, and they respect the right hook, the left hook, the uppercut, the jab. There's a lot of mutual respect that goes into those fights, and a lot of times they end up being stinkers, not because they're bad fighters, not because they had a bad day, but because they're so damn good. And what I think you saw yesterday is you saw the greatest coach in all of sports history in Bill Belichick. You saw him and his crew, of which there's probably at least 4 future head coaches on that roster.
It's a big tree, that Belichick tree.
It's a huge tree. It's a freaking weeping willow. It's a sequoia. And you saw him look at Sean McVay and everything they've done, and you just simply saw him out-scheme and take everything away that they pot. Now, did McVay have a great game? No. Did the Rams play great? No. Do you remember off the top of your head? Texters, help me out. I'm spacing right now. I've been trying to remember this whole segment. Who was the guy that Belichick didn't play last year that caught so many people's attention? He didn't play in the game. It was
on the defensive end, right?
It was on the defensive end.
I can't remember his
the
name.
text line will help out. Anyways, I felt like Todd Gurley was almost this year's version. That's the guy we're going to end up talking about in a month. Well, why didn't Gurley? Gurley's borderline MVP. What happened to him? Was he hurt? What was the deal?
Allegedly healthy, according to him and McVay.
That's what
McVay
they both
just said. He couldn't get him into a rhythm, and I'm like,
they both said.
Okay.
That's what they both said.
Just feed the rock to the guy, though, man.
I think you just had a situation where you had two tremendous teams going against each other, and one was last night in the Super Bowl, the New England Patriots were Floyd Mayweather, and the Rams were Manny Pacquiao.
And Gurley was Pacquiao's bad shoulder that we didn't know about.
Right. And Mayweather always wins, and you don't particularly like him, and maybe you think that the other guy has a shot. But in the end, Mayweather always downloads the info into his robot brain and ends up in the championship rounds winning. And I really felt that last night was very much, I saw a lot of similarities between last night's Patriots and Rams matchup and a Pacquiao-Mayweather style of fight. It's not fun to talk about. You're pissed off the next day, but sometimes you just get two good teams going at it, and one is a little better in the spotlight than the other.
But you didn't pay $50 for this one.
It's a great point right there. No, you didn't. Malcolm Butler is the name. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Malcolm Butler. I feel like Todd Gurley is going to be the Malcolm Butler of this year when we talk about this Super Bowl. We'll take a break. We'll preview the Kings and the Spurs. Kings going for a third straight homestand victory tonight against Greg Popovich and friends. We'll talk about that in 2.5 minutes right here on The Drive. Sports 1140 KHTK. All right, thanks to Jay Marshall for joining us this morning.
You got to stop taking these breaks. You missed a great conversation between us.
You and Eunice?
Yeah, we're talking about, do you remember that old adult film theater that used to be up on Watt Avenue? Eunice was not aware, so I just kind of had to.
It's where, I'm not sure if they're a sponsor, so I don't want to say. But there is a food establishment there now.
Correct. And I was telling her that they bulldozed the old establishment down. So it's not like they turned that into that place.
But there's ghosts.
Oh, you listen.
There are ghosts. Yes, I was too young to partake in any of the hijinks. Nor do I think, knowing me, I would have. But yes, that was there forever.
I'm not going to tell the full story, but I walked in there one day.
Oh.
Maybe another time.
Yeah, and I'll bet you it made sounds when you walked too, didn't it?
Made sounds, shoes stuck to the floor.
Yep. All right, so Kings versus Spurs tonight. 7 p.m., 6:30 pregame right here on the Sporty 1140. Kings have an opportunity to go 3-0 on this road trip.
Homestand.
What'd I say, road trip?
Yeah,
it's
okay.
It's the same thing.
That's why I'm here.
It's the exact same thing. Road trip, homestand.
You fall down, I pick you up.
100% the same. The San Antonio Spurs, however, are currently on a 5-game winning streak. They have beaten the Pelicans twice, along with the Wizards, the Suns, and the Nets. So record-wise, at least, they've beaten 5 straight teams worse than the Kings. Their last win was at home versus the Pelicans just the other night. In fact, I think it was the night before last? What is it? Yeah, it was 2 nights ago. It was Saturday night. So they've had enough time. They come here to start a little whatever they're doing on the road, but it is Greg Popovich. It is the Spurs, and he always has that team well prepared. The line on tonight's game, I got to take a look at that for all my wagering friends out there. The Spurs favored by 1.5. Oof. I don't know, man. This is a tough game to go after there. It will be on NBA TV. Spurs are at 32-22. It's amazing what Greg Popovich just continues to do with that ball club.
Here's what I love about Pop, is he took a team, and we're in the NBA now where it's the running NBA.
Yeah.
It's the shoot the three-pointer 40 times a game NBA, and he takes 2 guys in LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan and said, no, guys, don't extend to the three-point line. Play your game. They shoot so many mid-range jumpers.
They really do.
Which, the analytics experts will tell you that's a bad idea. But you know what? When they go in, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. It's very true.
And he's taken a team in the modern NBA playing an older style, and they're winning ball games.
Well, LaMarcus Aldridge is an all-star. DeMar DeRozan is an all-star caliber player. And by the way, not for nothing here, but Rudy Gay is actually having a pretty damn decent year. A little over 14 points a game to go with 6.5 boards, a little over 2.5 assists, and a lot of people, and that's just in about 27 minutes. What's interesting with Rudy Gay, he's shooting 52% from the field. Mm-hmm. He's shooting 41% from beyond the arc. Rudy is arguably having, and again, remember, this is a 32-year-old guy who's come off, who had the blown Achilles. We'll all remember at his career with Sacramento. He is resurging at 32. I mean, he's really quietly having a very, very good season.
Yeah, and they play the style of basketball that suits his game so well.
They do. And
I don't know if Rudy's doing that in an up-tempo team.
No, not at all. They play the style of basketball that does not suit the Sacramento Kings.
Correct.
And so tonight's game is going very simply. When we come in tomorrow and talk about this game, it's going to be very simple. Whichever team was able to establish their style, that's the team that's going to win tonight's ball game. If this ends up being I gotta see what the over/under is on this thing, but I'll tell you right now, I think if they hit the over, the Kings win. If they hit the under, the Spurs win. I think it's very simple. The over/under tonight is 220. Wow, it's 229.
Jeez.
On a Kings-Spurs game?
I was going to go with 195 off the top of my head. I'm like, you know what? This might be 100-95. That might be the final score. And whichever team gets to 100 wins the ball game.
Now, in defense, I see what Vegas is doing here. The last 6 games, including a loss for the Spurs, it's been 113, 117, 126, 132, 126, 120. That's points the Spurs have been scoring. They've been averaging over 120 points a game. Obviously, if an over-under's at 229, you're looking at both teams scoring about 115 points.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening tonight, think about who the teams that you just said the Spurs beat.
Pelicans, Nets, Suns, Wizards,
okay,
and the loss to the Sixers.
Right.
Yeah.
I think me and you could put up 120 on Phoenix. I'm dead serious about that.
I understand. I understand where you're going. And Buck 32 versus the Wizards isn't exactly crazy. The Nets don't have Spencer Dinwiddie anymore. They're hurting.
And the Kings, what were they, 14th in January in defensive rating? So this is a better defensive team than these teams as well. Better
Very
defensive team than we're giving them credit for being. I'm taking the under on that one. Way under.
From the 530, why do Kings fans boo Rudy Gay? I know why they boo him. They boo him because of the quote that this was basketball hell. I don't think Rudy Gay should be booed.
I don't either.
I'm all for booing players that deserve booing. Rudy Gay doesn't count there. It's kind of weird that people boo him.
It was basketball hell. He didn't lie.
It was basketball hell, and he was completely swindled by Pete D'Alessandro into signing an extension here. And then the way everything went, he was a professional, but he was completely screwed over. And I wish him nothing but the best.
Love Rudy Gay.
Also want to make a comment, too, over the weekend. One thing we saw in the Warriors-Lakers game. First off, Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting that Kyle Kuzma now has to change his name to DeKyle Cousins.
I see what you did there.
I did there.
I see that.
He has to move into the side house at DeMarcus's house and answer and call him Mr. Cousins.
Not even the pool house, the side house?
Nope, this little side, it's a little casita. Oh. DeMarcus Cousins ended Kyle Kuzma on Saturday night. I would like to, I said this online, and I'll say this to all Kings fans right now, and we can all nod our heads in unison. If you remember the dunk, Cousins dunked over Kuzma and stood over Kyle for, I want to say, about 27 minutes, slight over exaggeration, and then was led away, I think, by Andre Iguodala. If DeMarcus Cousins had done that as a member of the Sacramento Kings, he would probably be serving the first of a 7-game suspension tonight. But because he was doing it for the Warriors on national TV, it's just kind of written off as, that's part of the game.
Isn't it amazing when you play for a winning team whose team doesn't dominate the headlines by the off-court issues of the front office?
Right.
How the scope of things change on a player.
It was, and I'm not advocating that he should have been called for a technical. I'm advocating that he shouldn't have been called for a technical had he done that for Sacramento.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm fine with them letting him have a little bit of fun. But that was textbook taunting, that in the rule, I mean, that is as textbook a technical foul as you can have. And, of course, they didn't call it. As we finish up here from the 916, I'd like to hear Dave speak on the Kings' crucial stretch ahead. Only 2 easy games in the next 10. So San Antonio, Houston, Denver, Golden State, the Thunder, Minnesota, Milwaukee, the Clippers. I will say...
Where's the second easy game there? I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm looking...
Minnesota, I got everyone else.
Yeah, I don't know who else is an easy game. It's funny, the Kings have these stretches of really... It seems like they have these really crazy stretches of horrific games.
By horrific games, you mean tough opponents?
Tough opponents,
yeah.
Thank you.
That they win.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this much. I'm sorry. Did I go through that whole last thing saying he didn't get a technical foul?
You had mentioned.
I think I said he didn't get a technical foul, and I apologize because the text line's killing me right now. I was saying if he was on the Kings, he would have been tossed.
He'd been ejected.
And I think I said technical foul. So everybody correcting me, you're 100% correct. He would have been gone, and it would have been the start of like a 7-game suspension. It's just a different. It is a different rule out there than it is out here.
That's how Draymond Green survived all these years. Can you imagine if he played on a team like Minnesota?
Yeah, dude.
What we would hear about Draymond Green and the practices.
Yeah. I will say this on those 10 games. I will make a prediction. If the Kings go 5-5 in their next 10, which is a massive, great thing. I'm not saying they'll go 5-5. I'm saying if they go 5-5 in their next 10 and they avoid any crazy injuries to De'Aaron Fox or anybody in the core, knock on wood, I think they'll finish this season above 500.
I mean, that's not a hard thing to see, hard thing to foresee at all.
I don't think that's going on.
I need them to make a trade at the deadline though to improve, to really make me feel good about that. But we'll see.
All right, I want to thank Jay Marshall over here.
That's my name.
That is you for doing a wonderful job. Today, Kyle Madsen, as we understand, allegedly, will be back tomorrow.
Allegedly. That load management, man.
Yeah.
Got to be careful with him.
We'll give him a ton of crap.
Got to massage those hammies, Kyle, before you hit back in the car.
I want to thank all of you for listening, especially those that listen for all 3 hours. Thank you, sir. And thank you, ma'am. Eunice does a great job not going crazy, having to listen to us. One day we're going to let Eunice take the show over.
I like that.
I'll do lower thirds and all the graphics and stuff, and Kyle can run the board like he does and kind of participate.
A lot of stick figures going up there.
Yeah.
How are you in Microsoft Paint?
I'm terrible, but would be stick figures.
Nice. I like it.
So, for Jay Marshall, for Eunice, for everybody else, Jim Rome is next, followed by the Lowdown, and then Grant and Doug will take you all the way to the Kings game tonight. Have a great Monday at Sports 1140 KHTK. Bye-bye now.